If you walked across the planet 40,000 years ago, Earth did not belong to a single human species. You would have encountered a branch of our family tree, engineered specifically to survive the peak of the Ice Age. These were the Neanderthals. Their frames were shorter and stockier than ours, built with wide chests and thick bones that maximized heat retention in a sub-zero world. This side profile shows their distinct facial architecture: a prominent brow ridge, a large nose for warming freezing air, and an elongated, low skull that housed a brain often larger than our own. While long-standing myths portray them as primitive, the archaeological record shows they mastered fire, crafted complex tools, and cared for the sick and injured members of their groups. Survival required a high-risk strategy. They hunted massive Ice Age prey at close range. Modern analysis of Neanderthal skeletons reveals a pattern of fractures similar to those found in professional rodeo riders, the physical legacy of regular, face-to-face combat with large, thrashing animals. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was the most successful survival strategy in Europe. Yet, roughly 40,000 years ago, every physical trace of the Neanderthals vanished. Many assume our ancestors simply arrived and outcompeted them through superior intellect. However, the evidence suggests a much slower collapse, driven by a series of geographic and demographic vulnerabilities that were already coming to a head. To survive in an environment where resources were locked under ice, Neanderthals had to spread out. They lived in small, isolated bands, often separated by hundreds of miles of frozen terrain. Ancient DNA shows the impact of that distance: exceptionally low genetic diversity. These populations were effectively islands. This isolation created demographic fragility. Without neighbors, a single bad winter, a failed hunt, or disease could permanently erase an entire group. By the time Homo sapiens arrived in significant numbers, Neanderthal populations were already thin and fragmented. They were teetering on a demographic knife's edge. Their physical evolution made them masters of the cold, but the social structure that evolution required left them with no margin for error when the world began changing. At this critical moment, the Ice Age climate became violently unstable. It did not just stay cold, it began to fluctuate with unpredictable speed. Rapid shifts between warm and cold phases forced rivers to move, and massive herds of prey animals to migrate to entirely new regions. The Neanderthals' greatest strength, their total specialization for a specific sub-zero environment, became a liability. Their bodies and hunting strategies were too rigid to adapt as the landscape rearranged itself every few generations. Homo sapiens entered this chaotic landscape with a different survival strategy. We relied on expansive, long-distance social networks that spanned across diverse regions. These connections allowed constant exchange of information and resources. If one valley failed, the group was linked to stable climates, absorbing environmental shocks. Populations could move along established routes to connected regions, keeping the species intact while isolated groups vanished. Neanderthals did not lose a single great war. They lost 1,000 small, compounding battles against isolation, volatile climate shifts, and the simple passage of time. Today, we are the only humans left. Because we have dominated the planet for so long, it feels as though our survival was a foregone conclusion. The Neanderthal record shows that survival is not a simple contest of strength. This species vanished because their extreme specialization became their ceiling. Extinction finds its victims among those who become too specialized for a single way of life, and those whose social structures leave them isolated when the world changes faster than they can pivot. We are now entering an era of similar volatility. Our modern systems are built on a period of relative climate stability that is now ending. Our advantage has always been our ability to cooperate and remain flexible. If we allow our global networks to fracture and rely only on our past successes, we risk repeating the Neanderthal story, proving that even the most successful species can be erased when they lose the ability to adapt.